Oh, well, tell me a little bit about how you were inspired to even pick up a guitar, and then some of your practice routines when you started versus when you're practicing now, if you do.
For sure. Well, I was raised in a pretty musical family. My dad has been he was more active up until recently as a singer, sang professionally with this choir called the Norman Luboff Choir that toured Europe. And I grew up in a pretty small town, and he was kind of known as the singer, so to speak, the guy that would sing at weddings and funerals and events. And he would sing the national anthem and just all sorts of things. And
the volunteer.
So he was always, he was always singing around the house. And my parents grew up in the 60s and 70s. And so we're playing music from that era all the time. And so I had a pretty diverse musical upbringing, because my dad was, as a singer, was singing more in the classical world and more as a more traditional singer. And then when he would play music, would be like funk and pop and, Steely Dan and stuff like that. That had a little bit more soul and was more modern.
Yeah.
So kind of the combining of the two worlds there. And that certainly had a big impact on me as far as being impacted by music and sort of having a natural, just naturally being drawn to it. And I remember when I think I was 6, there was an ad in the local paper for violin lessons. And I remember the day that my mom asked me if I was interested in doing that. And I said, sure. So I started taking violin lessons, the Suzuki method, which is a common method to
How old were you?
6.
6.
Yeah. So I started doing that, and that was really my first instrument. Of course, I would sing as a kid and what have you, but in terms of playing a physical instrument, violin was certainly the first thing. For whatever reason, I don't know. I just, it was something new, and it seemed cool to me at the time. So I played that for several years, for like 8 years, I think, almost, until I was 13 and was introduced to the guitar, which can't really pinpoint an exact, event that triggered me to want to play guitar. But I do remember watching School of Rock, and which is one of my favorite movies. And there's a scene where Sunshine of Your Love is playing as part of the soundtrack. And I think Jack Black is like realizing that the kids are like badass musicians. And so he runs out to his van and starts bringing in gear to the school, and Sunshine of Your Love is playing. And I was like, what is this song? I need to know. So I figured that out. And of course, then kind of went down the rabbit hole of Eric Clapton and Cream. And there was also a local music store in the town square that had, that carried a bunch of guitars. And I remember going down there one day, and because I was interested in getting a guitar, an electric guitar, and went and picked one up, this like Ibanez like shredder guitar that was this like bright blue. That
just like
really
Clapton.
Yeah, right. Yep. That really spoke to me. And I started playing. My dad had a guitar at home, an acoustic guitar. So I had messed around a little bit and, knew a few things, but started playing Smoke on the Water.
Yes.
And the owner of the store was like, this kid's got it. I think he was just kind of, jokingly trying to, encourage me, whatever, because it's just Smoke on the Water. It's not like super involved riff.
Hey,
but
it's the one everybody can remember. They want to try to play it all on the E string, right? Just
right. Yes, exactly. It's actually on the D and the G. So yeah, that was, and then I just kind of in high school, I just really just went for it. There was nothing else I wanted to do. And I stopped playing violin because I was just kind of all in on guitar. And that was coincidentally matched up with the time that John Mayer was getting really popular, and he was like Continuum came out, which is like his guitar, record that was really inspiring to me. And, and also YouTube was really popping off then in terms of like fan footage getting uploaded, and I would watch videos of Robin Ford and, just like pick out what he was playing and, just transcribe stuff and just really go for it. Learning all I could. Just would come home after school. And
so you were part of the YouTube revolution too, because it seems like such a different way to learn, I don't want to say easier, but it's certainly more accessible. I mean, I used to have to save money to buy a book that you could take home, and you had that singular book to go learn riffs from or drum beats or whatever it was. And then
for sure,
then you'd save for the next one. So it was such a elongated process back then.
Yeah. I was actually more, I mean, now on YouTube, it's crazy the amount of content there is for you to learn whatever you want. And sometimes it's a little too much because you have to kind of sort through everything that everyone has put out on a certain, topic. But I was more interested in finding videos of like live videos of my favorite players. And because, the really good guitarists, they don't ever play the same thing twice. So there's always something new to learn from every video you watch. And I was pretty much self-taught, and I would use my ear, as opposed to being able to, I can read chord charts fairly well, but musical notation, I can't really read. And I would just rather rely on my ear because the type of music that I play and the situations I put myself in, it's more beneficial for me to do that, just because it's a skill you develop as well. It's something that you can get better at. Because if you hear something once and then you encounter it again, you kind of make note of that, and it's easier to learn new things that way. So
a lot of what you practiced, you're saying, was essentially emulating and learning, whether it be learning songs or emulating licks from some of your favorites at the time. Yeah,
for sure. And to be honest, I thank you for reiterating the second part of the question, because I forgot it, which was practice routine. And I don't really remember how I practiced when I first started playing, because I was just trying to absorb as much as I could. And of course, the pentatonic scale was huge for me. Still is for everyone, I think, that plays, blues and soul and funk and R&B. But I just took in as much as I could, and I had a looper pedal that I would use a lot as a practice tool, just like make a little loop with a couple of chords in it and just play over that for hours. And that's, it still kind of remains true for me today. There are some things that I practice at and that I want to get better at. There's a scale I've been working on. It's called the Lydian, Lydian flat 7 scale. So basically it's a major scale with a raised 4th and a flatted 7th, which is a cool thing to spice up your playing in a minor kind of blues or R&B kind of setting. But, anything I practice now is like, I'm either trying to like write, come up with ideas, chord progressions that I can use for songs. Or it's like I encounter a specific scenario that I'd want to use something, like a scenario that I encounter a lot, in the context of my playing. And I want to be able to use this specific scale or whatever there. So.
And how do you come up with the things? How do you come up with those things that you want to learn? Are they things similar to what you used to do? Is something that you hear, or you run across a Beato tutorial or something? I mean, how do you come up with these things?
Well, you just kind of like one way or another hear about, like, I play with this piano player a lot. His name's Mitch Town, and he's a jazz cat. He's very, very fluent jazz vocabulary. And so he'll play something and I'll be like, whoa, stop. What was that? Like, tell me what that was. And so he'll say whatever that was, just melodic minor, something over the 5 chord or something. So I make a note of that and then come back, when I come back home, I'll try and work that out. Or like watching one of my favorite Instagram guitarists, one of my favorite guitarists in general, but I found out about him through Instagram, is this guy named Charlie Allen from London. And he'll sometimes, like, we have a correspondence or whatever, occasionally talk. And sometimes I'll ask him like what he's doing at this little particular point, and he'll say, oh, that's Lydian flat 7 scale or melodic minor. Or so there's just little situations that, you make a note of what you want to single out and try and get to the source of that.
That's great. So you mentioned that you still write and everything. You've got some records out and you continue to put tunes together. I know you play with some different cats and different bands and settings. So career-wise, obviously this is what you want to continue to do for a living and build yourself. Is original music part of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, right now, the majority of the work I do is playing as a for-hire guitarist. So, I play with several artists and bands, in the Lincoln and Omaha area. And that's really great. I love doing that. I'll probably never stop doing that. But the goal eventually, I guess, is to transition to more of a more well-rounded, or just more, have my stoker in a little bit more fires, so to speak, in terms of having my own artist career where I can put music out. 'Cause I don't really have that much music out right now, not enough to like really start booking, shows and more extensive, endeavors in that area. But I do have aspirations to do that. But again, a lot of my time is taken up by playing with other groups, because, gotta pay the bills.
That's appreciable that you like both too, because I've got, have good friends in the industry that are still, a lot of my buddies are playing with some of the big touring bands and or studio musicians, and others that are, still trying to write and do their own thing. But it's rare to find somebody that really enjoys doing session work or playing with other bands and then still aspires to write their own stuff. So that being said, what is it like, and how did you come to the decision, or have you come to the decision to stay in Nebraska? I know this is a different day and age in the music industry, but what has kept you in Nebraska versus doing the old school move to LA or Nashville or something like that?
Sure. Well, I mean, moving here in the first place was kind of a random decision. I had moved to New York City, right after I graduated high school, with the intention of, living there and playing music and just I wasn't going to go to school or anything. I just wanted to become immersed in the scene there, which I did for a couple of years. I lived there and played with several artists and bands, but I lived there from 18 to nearly 21. And, I guess just didn't really feel that connected to the scene there. I think partly due to how kind of young and timid I was. And, I, as like a kid from small town Nebraska, not that I, didn't, acclimate well to New York City, because it is a big change, but I just feel like I didn't have the confidence to really go for it. So I decided to move to Lincoln, which is the capital of Nebraska, obviously, and the second largest city. And I didn't really know what to expect. I just had some friends here, that had moved here after high school and went to college or whatever. It's obviously a popular thing to do for kids from Nebraska to go to college in Nebraska. So I knew a lot of people here, but I quickly worked my way into the music scene. I was playing open mics and just trying to meet people, go out to shows, because then at that time I had turned 21, so I could legally get into bars, or music venues, which also coincidentally happen to be bars, which you have to be 21 to get into most of the time. So that was a big thing for me as well, was into getting into venues and meeting people. And I started playing with a band called A Ferocious Jungle Cat, which I still play in. We don't play as often, but we've been together the band existed before I even joined. So that's been, like almost 9 years now, eight or 9 years. Since then I've felt really lucky to have played with as many artists and bands as I have, because, it's supported me, almost the entire time that I've lived here. And it's one of those situations where the scene and the number of artists and musicians who are playing music is enough that, as a guitarist who I hope that other people think, is good and can play the music how they want it to be played. And I've been blessed to be, blessed to be asked to play with a lot of people, because they believe in me and
and it kind of illustrates how vast the music industry has spread. Not only are there more people that see opportunities, so they pursue them, but they also realize, with the way social media works and even relationships work in the person to person, like what you're experiencing, you're in a city that makes more sense for you personality wise, but there's still plenty of talent and opportunity, versus, in the early 90s, you moved to LA or else, or you're taking a secondary lane. So I think that's appreciable. And there's something to be said about just finding a place where you're comfortable, because obviously you're going to be a better player and, make more hay around people that you're comfortable with, as long as you're not compromising yourself. And obviously you're a fantastic player and you're still doing a lot of stuff. So I think that's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you definitely, hit the mark there with that statement.
So, and also, you put yourself out there, and then guys like me find you out of nowhere too, and hit you up for stuff. So, might I ask, what was it about this last project I asked you to play on, Ray of Light? What was it about that tune that made you say yes? Or are you going to tell me that you say yes to everybody?
No, well, first of all, the track is a banger. So that's like priority number one is the track good? And, it's obviously very funky, and, I liked how there's this like, I don't know if it's necessarily a key change, but there's this big kind of jump from, if it's the verse to the chorus, it kind of jumps around, which intrigued me listening to it. I was like, oh wow, that's fresh. That's like, that's something that I caught my ear. But yeah, I mean, the main, selling point for me is this track something that I would want to play on if I made it myself, or, is it something that's in my lane? And for sure that track is, it's funky, it's definitely, I lean more like minor playing, and I think my solo kind of stays in that, that lane too, which is, like the pentatonic, but kind of throw in some outside stuff too.
Yeah. That's been I don't want to call it a habit, but the same habit is I write in minor keys so much more often than is typical. Yeah. And it's just happens to be what I hear. And I've even had people say, man, it's sure you write in minor a lot. Don't you do it? I was like, I don't know. It's what I'm hearing. So, sometimes I do, but, I'm glad you caught on to it, because, I thought you did a fantastic job. I mean, you made it really sing, especially since you played on the bridge, and there was the part is kind of flowy and melodic. And I thought you did some really tasteful stuff to build into the slamming part. So I thought you did awesome. I really appreciate that opportunity.
Thank you. And I also really just love when, playing on other people's music, especially, remotely, because, that allows me to take my time and really experiment. And, oftentimes I'll even compose or a solo by playing through it several times and finding different pieces that work together. And then, because it's a recording, and, you take your time, working on everything else in the song and piecing things together and getting the parts just how you want them. So, I like to do that with solos often too. So, I'm pretty sure
and people don't realize too, that's when people play live, a lot of times that's manifest from reps in the practice room or whatever anyway. So they're kind of playing off an idea that they know that works. So when they're playing differently, it's not just flippant or out of nowhere. So
absolutely.
But you taking the time is a mark of a pro too, because there are a lot of people that, it doesn't mean you can't turn it around right away. But, when you're working in your own room, it's easier for you to take the appropriate amount of time and still turn it around somewhat quickly in terms of industry standard. So I appreciate that.
Well, I've also got my setup all ready to go and what I'm used to. And a lot of times in the studio, you'll be using like the house amp or, you don't have access to all your effects, and you got to sometimes haphazardly throw something together that you might not be totally confident about. But here I know that I'm going to be able to get something that I'm really going to like and be proud of. So
that's cool. Well, I'm very grateful for that opportunity to work with you on that. So as is kind of the theme of this channel and everything too, and I know we've discussed this in very brief before, but do you have any causes that you support or anything that you, even if it's not something that you relate to musically, or any causes or charities that you support?
Well, this is a good question. It's a tough one. This might be a little left field, or maybe not. Maybe someone has already answered this way, but I've got several people in my life, my parents included, who advocate for a whole foods, plant-based diet, which I have. I try to abide by most of the time, but yeah, I've learned a lot through them about the benefits of that lifestyle. And I think it certainly, in terms of impacting your health, has big benefits. And I think there's certainly something to say about the impacts on the planet as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not like 100% like, go vegan or whatever, but I certainly try to, abide by some of those standards and take care of myself in a somewhat healthy way.
That goes a long way. And I think that's, that is a modern day issue that carries over to more than just your own self too. Like you said, it's world, thus the nation, and it's a different level of health. I mean, I think that we've digressed in health wise. I got all kinds of stuff that has just been a consequence of the way we've eaten over decades and decades, and I all of a sudden develop all these allergies in my old age, and, the weirdest things come up, and those types of things could really avoid that. Or, I mean, heck, people I don't know exactly how old you are, but certainly people in their 20s now are going to be living to closer to 100 than ever before. And I think a lot of that's from that kind of education. So I think it's very valuable. Sure. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. So lastly, tell me what you're up to now. Is there anything that you want to talk about, things that are coming up or anything like that you want to touch on?
It's shaping up to be another busy year. Last year I had probably the busiest gigging year thus far of my music career. And this year is certainly shaping up to be another big one. I've got plans to, I think I can say this. I think it's set in stone, but I play with a band. I've been playing with a band called Josh Hoyer and Soul Colossal, which is a funk soul R&B band fronted by fantastic singer named Josh Hoyer. And he has been playing on the road and extensively touring for years now, and just put out a fantastic new record that I actually didn't play on. It's a somewhat complicated situation, but I've been filling in for the regular guitar player, who's one of my favorite guitarists in general. His name's Benjamin Kushner, but he played on the record and that got released late last year. So this year we'll be touring a bit more to support that, but we're in the works organizing a Spain tour, a Spanish tour, where we'd be in Spain for a week or two. So hopefully that pans out. I know they're still in talks, but and then we've also got we booked a cruise gig. So the band is going on a Virgin cruise for a month later this year. So that'll be really fun. I've never done anything like that. So it'll be an interesting experience, but it'll be fun to be, playing music in a different environment and traveling around and, in a different way. But other than that, yeah, I'm hoping to put out some more music this year. It's been 4 years since I've released anything, and I feel like I just have this urge to do more of that because
it's about that time, brother.
Yeah, it's time. Yeah. And you're certainly an inspiration for that because you've put in the work and you do a lot on your own as well in terms of producing and organizing everything. You work relatively, keep a tight team. So,
well, honestly, that's just born of the fact that I got tired of waiting on musicians to show up 2 hours late to a session. I mean, it was getting tiresome, and it's not that I'm the absolute best cat for every single guitar part on something or whatever. I just decided I'm going to do this myself. It may take longer, but at least I can express the things that I want to express and specifically the way I want to do it. I do hope someday to do a lot more collaborations like what I did with you, which I thought was fantastic. And you certainly have the talent to do this kind of stuff, whether it be on your own, or I'm sure you have musicians that you could call upon as well. But I know you could do this all yourself, so you have no excuse, brother.
Yeah, it's nice to have your hand in everything, or having your stamp on. I like to work in the stuff that I've released. Most of the stuff I've released up to this point, I've worked on almost exclusively by myself, minus mixing and mastering, and it's really fulfilling to see everything come together, piece by piece, working on it by yourself.
Well, get something out there. Don't wait till you're my age. There's going to be a hell of a lot longer than 4 years between records for you. And I know you've got great things in store. I'll be the first one in line when you have something out. So let me know.
I will. I appreciate that.
Yeah, like I said, I'd be the first in line to pick up your stuff. So if there's anything I can do for you, whether it be helping your record or helping anything else that you need, man, I'm always here for you. And I appreciate your talent, and I appreciate your time that you take to come sit down with us and share your story and some of your background. I hope people will scope your stuff, and I look forward to talking to you some more, brother. It's great seeing you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me, Tegan.
All right, man. Peace.
Pleasure. All right. Thanks, bro.
Pieces at the end of